Hello and welcome everyone to the Beacon of Light podcast this evening. Tonight, we have a large topic that we need to discuss and get awareness and prepared for. So, we're going to meet with Miss Andi Pray. But before we talk to her, let's jump into this.
I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now.
And we are back. Thank you for those that are popping up here live. Please share with us where you're from and put down any questions that this topic might really pop up. Some of you have noticed through the emails I was sending about this phrase, consuming children. And yes, we are talking about sex trafficking and the complications, the challenges with that. And Miss Andi Pray, she is an author and she has written a fictional book about this type of story. And we're going to get into the depths of all of these places because there's actually two parts of this rescue me. Yes, it's true about actually getting away from the trafficking, but then following that up with the healing and how that's all going to happen. So, first of all, before we get into all of that, Andi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, April. I'm Andi Pray. It is a pen name. I started going by Andi in school in junior high after watching Goonies because Andi was the first female Goonie. And then after I started writing, the name became a word play, and I pray. And so that's the way it goes. And I've been writing ever since I could put words together. I'm a big fan of Nancy Drew, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder. As we were talking about before the show, TV is my nanny, music is my guardian, books are my best friends as a latchkey kid growing up. So writing was all I had to pass the time away.
Incredible. I love the wordplay of and I pray. That's awesome. Fantastic. And so with all of this time to do some writing and such, sounds like you might have written a book or two prior to this one called Rescue Me. Is that right?
Correct. I have two prior books that came out in the early 2000s. I have Haunting Footsteps and the first book of what was supposed to be a trilogy called Till Death Do Us Part.
All right. So you are an active writer. And how did this whole idea about a topic like sex trafficking pop up into your, consciousness? Like, how did this happen?
As I mentioned, I watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies, and then I was involved in a women's conference that I would go to every year. And one year, Christine Kane from A21, she's the founder of that. She was there speaking, and Lisa Bevere from Missionary International both spoke at the same one. And when they spoke about human trafficking and the survivors, the aftercare, and how when you watch TV, you see a lot of stigma towards those that are involved in prostitution. And so I wanted to give another side of the story and a little bit more of kind of an advocate, empathy, maybe look inside from things I gathered from reading books, listening to testimonies, following some FBI videos, things like that, and listening to other survivors' stories, and just hoping to get a more of an idealistic idea of what they went through and how they cope with afterwards, and the stigma and the branding and everything with the name calling and just showing that they're human, they need love, they've been through a lot of pain, and the most important thing in their life right now is to show them that the world is open to them and they don't have to stay in that lifestyle. And when they get out of that lifestyle, that there is something that they have a purpose for to do, whether it's helping more or going on with something that they're passionate about and were passionate about before they got into human trafficking.
Really, really powerful, because if they can find something that motivated them prior to and spark that again, their healing opportunities, I think, increase exponentially, because there is that motivation that they can be reminded of prior days and what now, after the experience, how they can really move forward. So you're holding a little buddy right there in your lap, and you want to explain a little bit about your character right there?
Yeah, Mouse is my main character in the Rescue Me debut book because this is a series. And she and I made a character doll for her. She has a button that says "Handmade with Love," and she kind of has a camouflage outfit and blanket to go with her to show that her warrior heart. And so she just is something that I made up special to go along with the book.
And with Mouse, how did you come about her name, and share a little bit about her character within the book?
Okay, Mouse grew up on the streets. She remembers nothing more than that except for a lady that she called Mama, and how they were kind of isolated. They didn't really go out and do much except for find stuff to recycle to earn money to pay for rent and for their food. And then she remembers a fire and the man that stole her voice, because from a very young age, she did not talk. She made friends with a nurse at a hospital that taught her to sign so that she had some form of communication, because her original pimp called her dummy. And then when they brought in another girl called Star, which became Mouse's best friend and sister, they became as close as sisters. Star gave her the nickname of Mouse because it was nicer than dummy. And she has a way of scurrying around, being quiet as a mouse, and finding different ways to get through things. Mouse is only 4'6", and so she's short, fast, and she's got a good right hook. So you just don't want to mess with her.
Wow, incredible. Love how you build out your characters. And as this fictional story unfolds, there is that part of, as a writer, creating the world, the situations, what will happen. And then there are times in the writing where I'm sure these storylines just start to just open up and flow, and you're just thinking, I can't get it down fast enough. Did anything
Yeah,
like that happen to you with this book?
definitely. And from my second book, Mina, I had it written out and then I decided to go a different way, but I didn't want to lose everything I had already written. So I have it all saved into another document to see if I can piece it together somewhere else as like a backstory or something. Because there are times when the ideas just flood and you're like, I don't have the time right now to write it down. So please, God, don't let me forget it. And but it basically it's just a whole nother world. One of the best things about reading and writing is that you live 1,000 different lives in 1,000 different worlds within your one lifetime. And I've always told my kids that reading is the foundation of your education. It's a imagination stretcher. And so it's just something that I love. And I always keep a notebook on me and a pen, and I'm always brain webbing out ideas and characters and anything that I can do to remember it later on. I'll have post-it notes and put it into a journal and diary, and hopefully I don't lose those little notes, and then I can piece it together as I go along.
Right. And it's really great when we create and build worlds like that as writers, because the writing and building of a character, really the believability of it is really important. And if you have a set of books that you really love, the reason for that is that character. That character pulls you through whatever situation, whether it's fantasy, sci-fi. It doesn't matter. It's that character. If you have a dud of a character, your story is not going to go through anywhere. You could have the most beautiful, amazing world ever, and if your character is just kind of a lump on a dump, it's it's not really going to happen. So it sounds like Mouse has a lot of great characteristics that you've purposefully added to her and allows her probably to get through the terrible sex trafficking situation she finds herself in. So, not to give anything away about the book, and this is a series, right?
Yes.
So, will Mouse be featured in other series? Will she just go on to meet other people? Or will each book kind of have this topic of sex trafficking and their different experiences? Like, tell us about that trilogy.
It will be a series where Mouse kind of finds herself finding people with child abuse, sexual abuse, rape, domestic violence, all the scenarios, and trafficking throughout things, as she does wind up helping an FBI team with child cyber trafficking, because internet is a very wonderful tool. All the information is out there, but it can also be a dangerous tool if people are not paying attention and knowing the flags to watch out for predators. And so she down the road winds up being a kind of a consultant, because of the fact that with not knowing a whole lot about her past, they can kind of guesstimate her age. And there's a little bit of a tiny bit of her backstory in the going through the thing that finding her family. And it's you're like, you're just so close to finding that family, but you can't, because there's a little bit of danger in there as well, with the connections that she had as a child that follow her through. But she does wind up being kind of like a consultant, or somebody that looks young enough to pass as a child, a very young teenager, or even prepubescent if she can get that makeup done right. Kind of like the movie Orphan. It was kind of a horror movie. I never watched, but I got the gist of the background, that she's an adult that never ages. She always looks like a child. And she goes through different families, and it was a horror movie. So it's kind of, something I just don't watch, but I know the story of it.
Right?
And
Intriguing story,
yeah,
bloody outcome. Okay. Skip and
very,
fast forward. But really interesting to pull pieces together like that to see,
mhm.
how things can really evolve and get deep with the character. So what is your hope in writing this book and this series? What do you want people to learn from it?
To realize that human trafficking is not a third world problem. It is our backyard problem. There is no cookie cutter um, profile of who could be a victim, because it could be the next valedictorian who's never been in trouble, all of a sudden get boyfriended online with somebody she thought she could trust. Or it can be family. It can be there is a lot of drug and alcohol backgrounds on those that are considered high risk people involved in trafficking. It can be the LBGTQI community. It can be a boy. It can be a girl. It can be an adult. It can be, in a brand new born baby. And so there is no profile on it. Anybody can be subjected to it. And during COVID, the rates of human trafficking went up because a lot more people were on the net. A lot more bills came due. So a lot more people were desperate to find ways, or they got tricked into it. Or if you've ever seen Taken, the tourists getting trapped into it, that is a possibility, but it's just that if you open your eyes, because there's even a book called The Slave Next Door or The Slave in Our Backyard. They are both big books. And once somebody gets out of human trafficking, if they don't have that support and that love to continue, they are at a higher risk of being cycled back into it. And then it's much more difficult to get them out because of the stigma, of the prejudice, of the names, of the blaming, the victim blaming, the stereotype blaming. And so they could go back into it because it's safer, kind of like the Egyptians or the Israelites when they were brought out of Egypt in the desert. They're like, why'd you bring us out here? We were so much better off being slaves in Egypt. And sometimes that mentality is still alive today with victims of abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking.
Very true. That if you've only known the pain and unhealthiness of relationships and connections, when you're trying to get out and heal, if you don't have that support to teach you and to show you and to experience what healthiness can be, the alternative of just going back is very, very, very real on all those accounts that you listed there. So I can see a few more people who popped up here live. And so share with us where you're from and if you have any questions for Andi Pray, because this topic and the awareness of it during the month of April of a sexual assault month is part of this story. There isn't just one part that says, "Oh, you belong in this grouping, this grouping." Unfortunately, with sex trafficking, it can be put into a lot of different places, and the ability to, once you get out or possibly to finally get out, what that next step is part of the healing journey, and they must have support with this counseling, a place to go, safety, rebuilding and rewiring the brain, really. Not
Mhm.
because they were seeking out, but as a victim, your brain is changed and you need to rewire, you need to re-experience life with positivity because you have experienced life with negativity. And so to change all of that takes time. And so what do you hope with the sale of your books to do with those pieces? What do you want to accomplish?
I am part of a women's shelter here locally where I work, and seeing the needs of getting back on feet. As far as the abuse spectrum, like you have an autism spectrum, there's the abuse spectrum of, as I mentioned, the different areas of sexual assault, rape crisis, domestic violence, and then human trafficking. My passion is towards human trafficking and the aftercare. And so I am hoping that I can invest in maybe, doing flip houses for transitional low income housing to help them get back on their feet. Some of them have children that just need that support and counseling. And so I have big, big dreams. I am a big dreamer, big dreams of how I can help. But right now, I just support a lot of, I support one major human trafficking place, but I also share about NECMEC, which is the National Center for Exploited and Missing Children. And I'm try to be involved and share information from other ones so that other people can get involved. And with the message being spread, my hope is also that more people will get involved with the fight against human trafficking and to end it so that everybody can be seen as a human being and not a commodity.
Right, which definitely loops us back to this idea of consuming children. And
Mhm.
children are our most precious commodity. And as the children grow up, and if they can never get out, they become those adults that are remaining trapped. And the healthiness of our society and of our families in the future really plummets. So we need to take this absolutely serious. And I'm sure you've seen many news stories as of late, depending on, certain, we'll say, entertainment giants that have had exposure that certain CEOs, certain employees have also been a part of passing off and doing this trafficking. And when we read things like this, you just feel like you can't trust anyone anymore. The safety, the this, that, it's not there. And the point about a story like this is to really get the awareness, to remember that the person next door could be suffering in a way that you just don't even know. And the more awareness that we can have, the more ways we can support. And supporting this awareness really is critical. Thank you. We've got a great comment here. Most aren't even aware of the crisis, and it is a true pandemic. It is unfortunately absolutely true. We really want to, expose this into the light so that the people who are trapped, the children that are trapped, the infants that are trapped,
Mhm.
a way to find their humanity again. Remember that they have worth and value, and that they are here on this earth to do something more than be a commodity for someone else. The slavery mentality that goes along with this is not just a mentality, it's absolutely real. So, thinking about building the flip houses and places where people can heal is really important. Have you interviewed anyone who has been a what I call a Sir Thriver? Have you interviewed anyone about their experience and find that you might take elements of that into your next book?
I had an opportunity to do that, but unfortunately, some circumstances came up where they changed their mind and their life got a little messy. I don't know the details. I just pray for them. And actually, I did create a character for them in my next book, which I hope that they will see and take heart with it, that and inspiration with it, that they can find the light again and on their path.
Right. And just putting in those pinpoints of light really do guide you as the stars can. And there are moments, I'm sure, that as many who are stuck and trapped, they have a cry and a plead for help. And please know out there, help is on the way, help is coming. And if the more we get involved within it, the faster the help can come through. With a physical rescue actually leaving the whole world behind. And then, like Andy says, stepping into the next piece of really the healing aspect of it.
Right. And with my character Mouse, she, as I mentioned, she grew up on the streets, so that is all she knew. But she was very she had a very protective instinct and tried to get kids out. And when a older teenager was brought in that did not want to conform to the trafficking part except for to survive through it, saw her getting things out, she encouraged and built Mouse up. When she got killed, that just set Mouse off completely. And she kind of hung up um, the high heels on the cover of it. I don't know if you can see it, but she's standing by a dumpster or a trash barrel with a dress on fire that is much too big for her, but I wasn't going to fight with the artist. And she has her high heels in her hands and she's barefoot. So after this friend is killed, she basically runs around and tries to get other kids out. And as she gets caught doing this, it kind of puts a target on her back, and it also brings in help for her because the person who is her pimp is a notorious drug lord who has mob connections, that if they can get enough proof and evidence through her and her work, then they can take him down. And that's how she makes this connection that gets her onto her healing path, and then counsels and goes in along other stories throughout the series where she helps take down cyber predators and other things that may occur in the foster system. Please hear me. I am not putting down the foster system. I think it is a great tool, but as all tools, there are two sides to it. There are people who abuse it, and there are people who use it for the good to help these kids. But so there are links through different things. And so there's just other stories that come up. But I do believe the fostering system is good for children who are in not good situations with their original families that do need help and love and a safe place to go, so that they don't wind up in the situation of being trafficked because they are a high potential person to be caught up in it.
Very good. It is wise to understand that, as almost anything, what I say is that there's an opposition in all things. Just like you're talking about the foster program, there are those that use it for their good, and there are those, unfortunately, that use it for the ill. And the opposition will be found within anything. And as long as we stick to the side that is that positivity, which is that light, we really can help and give more opportunities for light to happen, and possibly change scenarios and situations so that it the numbers drop drastically. And that's the point of awareness. How much can we drop those numbers, save more children, help people recover, rebuild our societies together? It's very, very important for all of these things to happen. So, Andi, with our last few minutes, what would you like to leave our audience tonight?
That just to please pray and keep in mind, I'm so sorry, excuse me, that that every human being has a story, has a something going on in their life, and they need love and not judgment. They need support, prayer, and lifting up and encouragement in their purpose and their talents, and their and to feel safe. And I hope that that is what happens, that people see others as just human beings that need love and safety in their lives.
Well said. Well said. It is that importance that we do see each other as humanity, love on each other, and help each other get through some very challenging things. Thank you so much, Andi, for being a part of the Beacon of Light podcast this evening. If you have any questions, I have dropped down her links below, as well as where you can get her book on Amazon.com. Again, you've seen running on the ticker underneath, Andi Pray, Rescue Me. And you can go to her website at andipray.com. You'll be able to find a lot more information and contact her. Please help her to go through and help other people. Thank you. We agree. Very brave to produce this book, and we wish her the best of luck for the following books to come. And connect up with her and share the information. Let's save another child today. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, April.
You're welcome.